I'm Joey Bloch. Joining me now is the opponent, New Jersey 19th Legislative District Republican State Senate candidate, Maria Garcia. Maria, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Joey, for having me. I appreciate the time that you're giving me.
You're running for state senate in New Jersey's 19th Legislative District. What made you decide to run?
I have been involved in politics for the past, I would say, 20 years. I ran for the city council in the city of Perth Amboy, and I was also a board of education elected official. I have been a member of the zoning and the planning board for 13 years as a volunteer. And I have seen everything. I have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. I was involved with trying to show the corruption that we had in our city for many years, which led to the arrest of the ex-mayor of this city, which, by the way, he was one of the running mates with Senator Vitale. And I exposed all the wrongdoings that were taking place in this town. New Jersey is going through a lot of problems that all of these problems are affecting the people of this state financially, in our education, and even in the way that parents right now have control over their children's life and future. And we need to put a stop on that. We need to show people that the government is not there to only um, give to us. Government is there to represent us. We are the boss of our legislatures. They are not our boss, and this is the problem that we're having right now. They are not counting on the people and what we need before they vote for the bills that they propose. I give you an example. The bill that they just passed not too long ago in the Senate that had to do with the education of our children, and that they are going to expose them into matters that is not what most parents don't want this. They're going to be taught sex curriculum at the K to 7 grades, and it's not age appropriate. And none of these senators, especially the one that I'm running against, came to our town and had a town hall meeting with the parents and asked them if they thought that this was a good idea. Many parents are against this, and they should have come at least and present the bill and get something from the parents to see if it was positive or if it was negative. Because remember, they represent us. They do not represent themselves or their ideology or what small minority might want. They represent all of us. And we need to bring back the government to the people. And that's why I'm running. I'm running because I want to bring back the government to the people, for the people to know that we represent them and that we will listen to them and what they need.
You obviously bring up a lot of the things that you're not too fond of from your competitor, incumbent state senator Joe Vitale. He's been there for 25 years. And it's important to note you're running in a deep blue district. A Republican hasn't won there since 1993, and that was in the state assembly. Now, if you go over to the state senate side, the GOP hasn't won a seat there since Randy Corman. And then he ended up losing his reelection bid shortly before that time where the last Republican was in the assembly from the 19th district. In the most recent election, Vitale won by almost 20 points. How do you plan to overcome that?
Well, I think that that the people are ready for a change. I believe that somebody that has been in power for 20 years is too long. Why is it that if this person has been there for 20 years, nothing has gotten better? Are we better now than 20 years ago? Many people will say, no, we're not. We cannot afford our taxes anymore in our homes. People are struggling every day. We have the education in our schools right now is not at par. We have, since COVID took place, the um, the levels of proficiency went back to the rates of 2015, the levels of 2015, where 51.1% of the students were not meeting grade expectations in English arts. 64.6% were not meeting expectations in mathematics. Yet, what is it that our senators are concerned about? They are more interested in gender identity pronouns to address each other with. We need to prepare these kids for the future. And I don't think that gender identity and how to address each other with different pronouns is going to be the future for our kids. I have 4 grandchildren, and the future that I see for them is not the one that I want. I came here as an immigrant many years ago. I came here when I was 10 years old. And at that time, we all had a chance to succeed. Now it's getting dimmer and dimmer and dimmer because the government is taking over everything. They taking over our families. They taking over our education and how to educate our children. They are. I give you another example. I purchased my house about 33 years ago, and when it's time for my retirement, if I want to sell my house, now Joe Vitale and other senators, they decided that I have to give the government a percentage of my gains. Why? Did they pay for my mortgage? Did they pay for my insurance, for the repairs to my house? Why do I have to give a percentage of the gains of my house to the government? They want more and more and more, yet have we seen any improvements in the state of New Jersey? Are our roads better than any other roads in other states that they don't tax you the way that they tax us here? No, they're not. Other states, they don't tax you on your paycheck. They tax us here on our paycheck. You retire from in New Jersey, they tax you in your retirement. Everything is tax over tax over tax. Yet it's still not not enough.
Now, I want to go back to campaign infrastructure in particular in terms of getting the vote out. There's been a push within your party in recent years to move towards mail in voting. Former President Trump is even jumping on that bandwagon himself after previously being skeptical of the methods. And early voting was implemented here in New Jersey a couple years ago. Do you plan on using these methods to turn out the vote come election day?
Yes, I believe in mail-in voting, and the same thing that the Democrats have been doing, the Republicans should learn and do it, but legally. I believe that every vote should be legal, and every voter should have the ability to vote by mail if it's necessary.
Now, in terms of reaching voters beyond those methods, how do you plan on doing that? What's your game plan? Are you going to be mainly door knocking, going to events, advertising on social media? What's your game plan?
All of the that you mentioned, plus I think that grassroots is the most important method. You need to go door to door. We started last Saturday going door to door, and thank you for everybody that opened their door for us. I appreciate it. And we had a very warm welcoming from everybody that we met. And that is our plan, door to door. We need, I think that for somebody to ask a voter to vote for them, they should introduce themselves to the voter and have a conversation. Of course, we're not going to be able to meet everybody because it's a large area that we have to cover. We have to cover Carteret, Woodbridge, that is enormous, Perth Amboy, South Amboy, and Sayreville. But we're going to try to reach as many voters as possible going door to door.
Now, I want to go back to an issue that you're very passionate about, and that is education in New Jersey. A lot of controversy surrounding that in recent years. The most recent example is the state attorney general suing 3 school districts in the state over a gender notification policy, which would require the staff to alert the parents if a student decides to go by a different pronoun than they were born with. You've expressed concerns about this, basically, that, schools shouldn't be having the sole voice on this. The Murphy administration says, the schools have no right to get involved in this, that basically the students should be allowed to do whatever they want, and they don't need to be the intermediary between the parents and the students, while Republicans on the other side, especially former Assemblyman and former Republican gubernatorial candidate Jack Ciattarelli, he was on the show a couple of weeks ago saying, this is not right. He believes that schools should be allowed to implement this policy if that were in place. But in regards to a statewide policy, he says it should be left school to school. So in your view, should schools be mandated to notify parents of a kid's gender, or should this be a school by school basis?
I don't believe that the parents should be left out of anything that is happening with their children. Remember that the parents are the person that are responsible for these children. And if they're not aware of something that is happening with them in the future, when something goes wrong, the parents will be blamed. But yet they never knew that this was happening with their child. Therefore, I think that parents have the right to know everything that is happening with their child. And I don't understand why all of a sudden the schools are saying, well, we don't have to tell you anything, the parents. When I remember when my kids were going to school, if my daughter needed a Tylenol, they will call me to come to the school and sign a permission to give her a Tylenol. And I give you another example. In the state of New Jersey, for a 16-year-old to get a tattoo, okay, they need a written permission from the parent, and the parent must be present when they get that tattoo. So how can we have these laws to protect the child and to let the parent know of what's going on, which I think that is a good thing. But then we are saying when it has to do with gender transition, we're not going to inform the parent. This is a major thing. This is not something as getting a tattoo. This is major. And the parents need to know because it involves a lot of things that can be, something that it might be not good in the future when the child reaches an adulthood and all of a sudden, let's suppose that now they don't want to be that they chose when they were younger. How are we going to reverse that?
So obviously you are not a fan of the Murphy administration getting involved in this, that you say the parents should have a right to know what's going on with their child. But the question is, though, should every school in New Jersey be required to take this up? But let's say win election to the state Senate and you're in the state legislature and a Republican governor happens to come in who says, you know what, I want to mandate this in every school district in New Jersey, that they now have to notify the parents of a gender change in a child. Would you support that type of bill?
that they have to notify the parents, yes, I will support that bill.
Now, I want to move to a different subject here. I obviously want to talk about the state budget that was recently passed, but it was not without controversy as the negotiations stirred up a bit of drama. Both Republicans and progressives criticized the process in which these negotiations were being conducted. This is something we've heard a lot about in recent years, with leadership from both parties largely negotiating the budget behind closed doors and not even showing it to fellow lawmakers until right before it's time to vote. Now, you're someone who's obviously dealt with transparency issues. You've talked about that, dealing and living in Perth Amboy. Do we need a more transparent budget procedure in Trenton?
Yes, we do. I am wondering, because if you start to think about everything that they are taxing us on, okay, how come we still have no money and we have such an immense debt right now in the state of New Jersey? They remember that they passed the lottery saying that it was going to be so they could get funds for the schools. That has never happened. Then they are gambling. It was the same thing. Has never happened. Then when they built the parkway and the turnpike, if I recall correctly, I mean, I'm not that old, but this is what I read. We were told that it was only the tax. I mean, the tolls were going to be put in place to pay for the construction of the roads. How many years we have already paid for those roads, and still we have to pay tolls. And during COVID, I give you another example. A lot of people lost their jobs during COVID. They had a really tough time. And when the governor decided to reopen the state of New Jersey, what is it that the first thing that the legislature did? They increased the tolls. How can you increase the tolls when you have people without jobs, okay, for a year? They don't have a conscience. And again, they're going to increase the tolls again. Why? We need a total audit of the books of the state of New Jersey, because I don't understand where our money is going to. I then think about this: the pensions of the public workers were not paid for years. For years, their pensions were not paid, and yet they were taking all these billions of dollars from the taxpayers. And now they want to increase our taxes more to pay for the pensions. First of all, why they didn't pay the pensions? This is a promise that they gave to the workers that they should have funded. And second, where did their money go? They saved all their money all these years. Where did it go? And the working people are the ones that are hurt the most when they have to pay these outrageous tolls and these outrageous taxes. I always said they always say we are for the poor. But yet instead of helping, they're making us poorer. The middle class is dying. Here in the city of Perth Amboy, we have people waiting online. Something that we haven't seen in many, many years. We have long lines of people waiting for in the food banks. Why? When the state government gets billions of dollars of our money, people, like I said, they are stretched out. They cannot make it even to buy food for their families, that they have to stand online to get food at the food banks. It is time to stop all this nonsense. We need a change, and New Jersey deserves better.
Now, a key agenda item for the governor is the anchor program. That was a part of this budget that was just passed. He touts it as a tool to combat high property taxes, but Republicans have largely claimed it's a gimmick. You have yourself has cited property taxes as a big issue for you, and it's a key part of your campaign. If you were in the state Senate right now, would have you voted for the anchor program to be renewed under this budget?
My question is, why are we taking money and then we're going to reimburse it? It makes no sense to me. If we don't need it, if the state of New Jersey doesn't need the money, why in the first place is taking it from the taxpayers? It's a gimmick. It is a gimmick. It's a dog and pony show. Oh, we're going to take $20,000 from your property taxes, but we're going to give you back less than 1%. And you must apply. So now they put in the taxpayers, it's their money. They have to go and they have to fill up an application. They have to see if they're going to get it or not. And it's their money. Why did you take it from us? If you don't need it, why in the first place you're taking that money?
So it's safe to say you would be a no on that if you.
I would say no, and I would say what we need to do is start cutting wasteful spending and let the people keep their money.
Yeah, you bring up that point, which is one that Republicans have been talking a lot, is that we need to cut property taxes. We don't need to have this government run thing where you apply for the program and then you get reimbursed at the end of the year, or, there's a lot of semantics involved with it. Republicans have just been calling for a straight property tax cut. How would you?
Because if you really think about it, it makes no sense. Here is the government taking my money. And then next year, they telling me, go to this website that sometimes it crashes and apply. See if you're going to get it back. And when you go through all the process, maybe you get it, maybe you don't. But if you're going to give it back to me, why you just cut the taxes and I keep it? You don't have to go through all that, because if we're going to think about it, it costs money to do all this that they're doing. So how are we saving any money? Next year, also, probably we're going to have to show that we received $1,500 from the state government, so our tax might go up again. Well, we have to refund, what we have to pay in taxes. The whole system is broken, makes absolutely no sense, and they do it mostly at election time for votes. They put smoke and mirrors and they say, oh, look what we have done for you. But they have done nothing for us because their hand is always in our pockets. And right now, our pockets are basically empty.
Now, my question to you is, because Republicans have tossed around plans of how they would reduce property taxes. Jack Ciarelli, when he was running for governor, said we had to fix the school funding formula. Then there were other people who were saying we just need a across the board property tax cap. We do need to lower the cap, which is it's 2% right now, to 0% as a way of cutting property taxes. How would you propose reducing property taxes if you manage to get into the state Senate?
The way to do the property taxes is very simple. Right now, we're paying for school taxes, county taxes, state taxes, and income taxes. Why can't we just eliminate one of these taxes, property taxes? You already are taxing me in my income. You're taxing me for education. And we also have the open, what is it called? That is for the land, open land taxes. So we need to take away one of these taxes, reduce the taxes of the homeowners, and work with the money that we have instead of keep on wasting money over and over again.
As part of budget negotiations, there was a package called Stay NJ, which would give property tax breaks to senior citizens in the state. Stay NJ passed overwhelmingly in the state legislature despite criticism from Republicans on the outside. Former Assemblyman and former Republican gubernatorial candidate Jack Ciattarelli was on the show a couple weeks ago, as I've said previously, and he said this tax break was too limited, and he basically said because there is a certain income bracket in which you qualify for it, and if you're above the tax bracket, you don't qualify for this program. He thinks shouldn't be a limit like the original proposal that came out. And also another critique was the fact that this didn't go into effect until 2026. Are you in favor of Stay NJ, or do you think this is a program that was not meant to be?
This is a program that was not meant to be, because if they really feel that it is of the most urgency to keep seniors in this state, which I agree, because once you retire, you cannot live in this state. It's too costly. They will not make it until the year 2026. If you know that you must give seniors a cut in their taxes so they can stay in the state of New Jersey, why not do it today? Why wait until 2026? Because again, it's smoke and mirrors, and they love to work with smoke and mirrors. And another question that I have for Craig Cotlin, he has been in the assembly for how many years? And all this sudden, on election year, he remembers or he realizes that the seniors, we're losing seniors. They're moving to Florida, they're moving to Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, Delaware. They're moving out of the state because they cannot afford to stay here. And he just realized that. In all this time that he has been in the legislature, he never realized that we're losing many, many people because we cannot afford to stay here anymore, including me. Once I retire, I don't think that I will be able to stay in the state of New Jersey. And why is he doing it? He's doing it to win an election. That's it. It's not that he believes in it, because if he did believe in it, and if he understood the hardship of the senior citizens, he would have done this before.
For people who are interested in learning more about you, about your campaign, maybe how to get involved, where can they go?
They can go to our website. The address is njdeservesbetter.org, and everyone is welcome to join the movement. We have a Facebook page. It's also New Jersey Deserves Better, and you can find it. It says Maria Garcia for State Senate, Sam Raval, that's R-A-V as in Victory, A-L, and Marilyn Colon for Assembly. That's in Facebook.
Well, we'll have to see where this all goes and how it plays out come Election Day in November. New Jersey 19th Legislative District Republican State Senate candidate Maria Garcia, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me, and thank you for everybody that is spending time listening to me. Thank you.
Well, that about does it for me this week. Thanks so much for joining me as always. To stay in touch with what's going on the show, all you have to do is follow me on social media. You can do that on Instagram at joey.bloch.39. Again, that is at joey.bloch.39. You can also check me out on Twitter, which is at Bloch_Joey. Again, my last name is spelled BLOCH_Joey. And in case you found this show for the first time, you're like, oh my God, this is so great. I love it, but where do I find it? Well, here's what you got to do. You got to open that browser of yours. You got to type in foxsportsradionewjersey.com/podcast. Again, that is foxsportsradionewjersey.com/podcast. You go there, you go to the homepage, you'll see all the podcasts, and you'll scroll down till you find In the Middle with Joey Bloch. You click on that, and all the episodes will be there, with the newest one at the top and the older ones at the bottom. We typically put out new podcasts every Friday afternoon at 3 p.m., so be sure to tune in there. Well, thank you so much for listening. It has been a pleasure. We'll be back in next week with more In the Middle right here on Fox Sports New Jersey.